Hello everyone, I'm Olly, one of the marketing and CRM consultants here at HubGem. We specialise in HubSpot implementation for the education sector, and in this series I'm going to be outlining the AI features that HubSpot CRM offers and of course how we can use them. So in today's session we're going to be using Copilot again. This time we're going to be using it to actually start to help us create some of our emails you might be using as part of your admissions teams. And we'll also have a look at how we can use Copilot in more detail than we did in our intro session to actually help us summarize some of our leads or some of our contacts so that we can get that sort of snapshot relevant information. So we're on our contact screen here. Let's say there's a particular individual that I need to go ahead and contact in some way. So I want to get a bit of a description, a bit of an idea maybe of sort of current activity, sort of what sort of lead they are, just generally get a bit of an idea around what we've already done or communication we've had with that individual. So I can navigate to, of course, or search or filter, whatever it is I need to do to get to that contact. And as you may be aware, we have the preview option where we can go ahead and just pop out the window on the right-hand side and we just get sort of a smaller view of that contact record. And as it loads in, you will get some of the basic information that we find on our left sidebar. We'll get some of the activity we'd find typically in the middle section, and of course if we keep going we'll get things like some of our associations, but that's not particularly useful. That's just really a smaller view than what we get if we were to go through to the record itself. Where Copilot can really help us here is the second button that we see, which is to summarize a contact actually using Copilot. Now, when we hit this button, Copilot will come out from the right-hand side, like it kind of always does when we want to use it in this form. And what it will do is do the prompt for us to go ahead and summarize our contact here. What it will then do in bold is pick out some of the key bits of property information. So things like, of course, name, lead status, the date that they were created on, things like job title, contact ownership, and so on. All of those bits there that are highlighted in bold are the sort of property data that it's pulled through. But of course, you can generally read the summary that it generates, and it does so in quite a nice sort of coherent paragraph there for you. So there you can get a real sort of snapshot of what, who that contact is, what activity maybe we've had with them when they were created, some of that real important sort of snapshot data. As we scroll down, this can become even more powerful and even more usable. And actually, if we wanted to do more with Copilot here, I would suggest just scrolling down and using the See All Context button. What that will do is then push out Copilot into the full screen, and we can interact with it and get some more detailed information. So the next thing we kind of got here is this middle box, and this is where again you can sort of see the basic details of that contact record. But this is where we can get into a bit more detail around things like engagements, any associated deals, and things like if we have any tickets maybe as well. So if we click into there, as you can see, we get a bit of information there around the last 10 engagements. So you can see we've had tasks, meetings, there's been notes, there's been calls. And if we wanted to go ahead and do just like we did with the contact record itself, actually summarize some of these. So for example, here we've got a note. We can go ahead and ask it to summarize that note for us. As you can see, the prompt is then in there. And Copilot has summarized exactly sort of what happened as part of that note. So we can do that for any of these sort of last 10 engagements that we've had, and quickly sort of jump to, if it was a large note or maybe a large email thread or something like that, just ask Copilot to summarize that for us. Similarly, we've then got the same thing with deals. So any of those deals that might be associated with our parent contact, in this case, any of these child records that we have in our deals object. Again, we could ask it to summarize sort of where they might be in their enrollment process, and if there's any maybe following actions we need to take with that individual. So again, one of the deals we might be interested in, we can hit summarize. Copilot will then again do the prompt for us to summarize that deal in much the same way that it sort of has done for our contact record. It will do it for that deal record there as well. And then if we needed to, again, for the deal, we could go ahead and jump into the last 10 engagements that we may or may not have had with the sort of child record there as well. Of course, most of this probably is carried over from the parent with that association, but again, if there's any sort of nuances in there, we can go ahead and ask it to continue to summarize. So using those sort of features and those associations and to summarize all of those elements, you can really start to build quite a clear picture of sort of what's going on with that contact, with that child, what stage they might be in, and your recent activity with them, to give you a really good sort of bit of outline around what you might then want to include in your follow-up or your outreach email, let's say. Other things that we can do here as well is go ahead and for some of the other objects like tickets, if we're using them, go ahead and do the same thing here as well. Finally, at the bottom of this sort of contact box that we started off with, we have two options to go ahead and add a task or to actually go ahead and draft an email. So if we wanted to go ahead and create a task off the back of this, maybe we need to go ahead and follow up with someone, we can hit add task. And as you can see, Copilot prompts us here to then go ahead and actually enter what that task might include. So this could be something like, a follow-up email. I need to go ahead and follow up with something that's going on with their deal. I can then go ahead and do that. As you can see, it then does the prompt again for me for Copilot to create a task, which is follow-up email. And as you can see, it's successfully done that. Now, we are missing a few features here in terms of course, setting whether or not there's some sort of date or notification we want for this. But of course, the outline or the basis of the task is there. And we could go ahead and jump to that task in the task tool itself, and maybe flesh that task out a little bit more. But it's just sort of demonstrating here that just from this one Copilot window, sort of the extent that you can actually achieve with the summaries, with setting those tasks, with getting a real clear picture of what's happening with the associations and the contact themselves. And also, finally, if we go back up to our original card for the contact, we can go ahead and draft an email, which we'll do in this session shortly. The last thing you'll see is just the ability to see all of the context. So actually see, the properties and the property values that it pulled into the summary above in quite a nice table view, where you'll see, of course, first, last name, the contact's owner, the life cycle stage, sort of where it got that information when it created that summary for you as well, and just the locations that that data may be sitting in. Finally, you'll then get a more of a sort of written summary again of any of the notes that we've had. And we'll also get a summary of our engagements as well. So loads of different ways you can digest this data. And of course, we've not even gone into the contact record yet to get any more additional information. All we've done is use Copilot AI here to help us summarize some of those key points and then perform a few quick actions, as well as looking at some of our associations as well. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and actually have a look at what happens if we want to go ahead and hit that draft email button. But I'll also show how we can do that regardless of whether we're in a contact, whether we've already started this thread, how we can just use Copilot to actually do that from scratch, and the functionality will be the same. So I am now inside of our contact that we had that summary of, but again, I wanted to show how you can actually sort of start to generate these emails without actually really needing to do so from that summarized Copilot screen we were in before, or you don't even have to be inside of your contact record to do this. What we want to do in this example is go ahead and create some sort of email. Let's say it's an initial outreach or something like that. If we wanted Copilot's help and essentially have Copilot draft the email for us with a few prompts, we can navigate to Copilot in our top menu bar here. What it will then do is pull in, of course, any of our sort of previous chats, or we can go ahead, as we've seen in our previous sessions, and go ahead and start a new chat as well. What I did here with Copilot is to go ahead and actually just create the email outreach prompt. So if you're not sure or not familiar with what you need to do for that, you can navigate down here to all prompts, and then within generate, if you hit more, there'll be various things that Copilot can help you to generate here. Of course, one of those being some sort of email outreach. Once you've found the right option, of course, what you can then do, it'll pull in that sort of prompt for you. There'll be a few details you'll want to fill in. It will highlight these for you, just so you can give a bit of description just from what you want the email to ultimately be. As you can see here, my prompt was to create initial outreach email for a lovely school targeted to our leads who may be experiencing difficulties with their admissions process. We wanted to introduce our onboarding service, and we wanted to have some sort of call to action at the end where that client would book a meeting with us. I also asked it to keep it short but professional. What Copilot has then done is given me a subject line. It's then given me the ability to, of course, include the recipient's name. It's generated the text here in multiple sort of paragraphs. Of course, you can read through it, make sure it's sort of structured and sounds the way you want it to. And then ultimately, of course, we'll sort of sign off with my details there as well. Now, what we can do then, of course, to get this into an email, again, whether or not we're on a contacts record or if we're just on the homepage or anywhere else where we've just sort of created this email, if we want to go ahead and send it to our contact here, we can navigate to their contact record under emails and create an email. That will pop out the window that I'm sure you're used to if you're a HubSpot user by now. Of course, it pulls in my email address as the from address and the contact for that contact address as well. Now, what I'll do first off, of course, is sort of just, if I'm happy with it, copy and paste the subject line into my subject box here. So that was, of course, the recommendation based on what it's typed out would be a good subject line. What I can then do, again, if I'm happy with it, of course, is go ahead and sort of highlight what Copilot has done for me. Again, copy and paste that now into the main body of our email. Of course, formatting, we'll just want to put sort of, select the paragraphs that it had. Unfortunately, it's not copy and pasted that quite in the way that we might have wanted it to, but even so, just having to add those sort of line breaks and maybe editing a few words and punctuation here and there, still going to be a lot quicker than you having to necessarily draft that email yourself. What we can also do, of course, where it says sort of dear recipient name, we could go ahead and add one of our personalization tokens in there as well. But of course, you still have access to, snippets, video, email signatures if you wanted to from this as well. And of course, we can also still go ahead and attach any sort of documentation we might also want to put in there as well. So you're still, of course, not limited by the AI sort of not having that functionality. Once the wording is in the email tool, you still have sort of full access to all of your text editing tools, inserting links, and so on. Once we've then, of course, gone ahead and made sure that's fine, just like it would be if we've actually typed that out ourselves, we can send that email off to the contact and hopefully then receive that email back. So there you go. That is all for this video. I hope you found it useful and informative. Of course, if you want to learn more about HubSpot or how we can actually help you with your implementation within the education space, the links you'll need will be on this post or in the description. Bye for now.